episode that'll enrich your knowledge and maybe even teach you something new about our awesome region of the country. Stick around. Hello, lovely listeners, and thank you for tuning in to this edition of Notable New England. I'm your host, Gretchen B., and I hope everyone is doing well. October is my favorite month of the year, so I'm celebrating spooky season and getting all hopped up for Halloween. It's always so much fun here in New England during this season, and I love seeing how everyone decorates for Halloween. I can tell you some of the decorations around my neighborhood are pretty cool, and I always get a kick out of seeing them, especially the very elaborately decorated houses. I'm hoping the 80-degree days are behind us. I don't know about you, but I love me some crisp, cool fall weather. So if you are new to the podcast, welcome. I am so glad that you are tuning in, and I hope that you enjoy it. I thought a fun thing to do on today's episode would be to share some trivia about New England to entertain you and teach you something maybe you didn't know already about the area. We are certainly a place with lots of interesting history and fun factoids, so I thought it would be neat to delve into some of that. But before we do, let's start off with some Wicked Light Bites, community-oriented stories and happenings from each New England state. A Massachusetts couple accomplished an incredible feat, both getting back-to-back holes in one. Sandy McArt, who is 81, and her husband Roger, who is 86, were playing at the Edgartown Golf Club with friends when Sandy teed off at the 6th hole. Sandy thought she had a good shot and said, quote, "I was just hoping it cleared the trap. There's a bunch of grass growing at the back of the trap in the eyebrow, and you can't see whether it went in that or beyond that," end quote. The couple's friends suggested maybe Sandy had hit a hole in one, but they all brushed that off. Then up came Roger to tee off. Like Sandy, he figured he'd made a good shot. He said, quote, "I thought it might have made it to the green and it was going right for the center of it," end quote. The group made their way to the green, and lo and behold, the couple had both gotten holes in one. Edgartown Golf Club manager Mark Hess was nearby and verified the holes in one and posted the feat on Facebook. Apparently, Sandy is a pretty good shot because she has gotten holes in one before, but Roger, this was his first. The couple and their friends had a celebratory round of Bloody Marys and champagne, and Sandy said, quote, "It made us feel younger, all the excitement," end quote. Congratulations to Sandy and Roger McArt. Thank you to Bill Evell of the Vineyard Gazette for information for this item. In some sad news, Nectar's in Burlington, Vermont, the venue that launched the band Fish, has closed after 50 years. Owner Nectar Roris said, quote, "Fish made Nectar's," end quote. And Fish credits Nectar's with their early success and allowing them to play at the venue when they were just starting out in the 80s. In fact, Fish's 1992 record is called A Picture of Nectar as a tribute to Roris and the club for helping them to get their start. When the venue announced on social media it would be closing for good, citing challenges in downtown Burlington, as well as the local music and entertainment scene, hundreds of fans commented and shared tributes to the club and the variety of performers it had showcased across the years, including Vermont's own Grace Potter, B.B. King, Blind Melon, and many others. Last September, Fish bassist Mike Gordon came to the club to catch singer Maggie Rose's sound check, and he joined her in her band on stage for a few of their songs. Maggie had, in fact, rerouted her tour to be able to play at Nectar's. She said, quote, "The lore of Nectar's did not disappoint. It truly was just one of those surreal moments," end quote. Information for this item comes from Amanda Swinhart of the Associated Press, as reported to Vermont Public. Thanksgiving 2026, next year, will mark the 100th anniversary of the Macy's Day Parade in New York City. And the Yukon Marching Band found out that they will be performing at it. Yukon's marching band is one of 10 across the country who were selected to play at the parade next year in celebration of its 100th anniversary. This will be the first time Yukon's marching band will be performing in the legendary parade. The band's director, Malcolm Jones, had this to say, quote, "The University of Connecticut Marching Band is very excited to be a part of the 100th Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in 2026. It is also the 130th year of the UCMB, which is extra special to celebrate these two milestones together and makes this opportunity even more special for our university, our dedicated student band members, and the many thousands of proud UCMB alumni around the globe," end quote. Information for this item comes from NBC Connecticut. Talk about a childhood fear come to life. Quicksand like mud. As a kid of the 80s, quicksand was the stuff of legend with me and my friends, and I'm sure with a lot of Gen Xers. Well, a duck hunter in Maine was thankfully saved when he found himself waist deep in a honey pot, which is a pocket of mud that acts like quicksand, trapping anyone who steps on it. Matthew Alexander was hunting near Wharton Point, a spot on Macoyot Bay in Brunswick. He said that he had shot a few ducks and was going to pick them up. He thought he was stepping on solid ground, but instead he began to sink, and the tide was beginning to rise. Thankfully, he had his cell phone on his person and called 911 and was rescued safely. Officers had to use the department's Marine Patrol airboat to reach Matthew, and it took 2 officers to pull him out and break the suction that was trapping him. He was then transported to Midcoast Hospital, where he was treated and released. Matthew Alexander had this to say about the ordeal, quote, "Pretty much sat there watching what could be the end of me. A friend of mine was telling me their kids were out playing on them over the summertime. It can happen to anybody as long as you're out there," end quote. Thank goodness Matthew was rescued and is safe. What a scary experience. Information for this item comes from Griffin Stockford and Pearl Small of New Center, Maine. Laughing for a good cause. What's better than that? Funny for Funds in Rhode Island will host a comedy fundraiser to help a Portsmouth, Rhode Island food pantry. The fundraiser will be held at VFW Post 5390, located at 822 Anthony Road in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, on Saturday, November 1st. Doors open at 5 p.m. and the show starts at 6 p.m. And if you attend, you can bring your own snacks. There will be a cash bar, and there will be raffles taking place. Money raised will benefit the Aquidneck Food Pantry, which is a volunteer-run organization that feeds those in need, and spreads awareness about food insecurity in and around Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I'm going to provide a link in the show notes to get tickets for the event, and the tickets are $25. Thank you to Leah Crowley of WPRI 12 for information for this item. It'll be a real hoot. Don't miss Owloween at Squam Lakes Natural Science Center on Saturday, October 25th. Meet live owls up close to animals presentations. You can see the animals along the animal exhibit trail, and they encourage you to come dressed up in your favorite costume. And kids are going to get a bag of Halloween treats to take home too. Owloween activities are included with trail admission, and you can get tickets online, which I will link in the show notes for you, or you can get them in person the day of. The Squam Lakes Natural Science Center is located at 23 Science Center Road, Holderness, New Hampshire. Information for this item comes from the Squam Lakes Natural Science Center's website. Up after the break, I'll be sharing some interesting New England trivia and fun factoids. If you're curious, stick around and learn something maybe you didn't know before. You're listening to Notable New England. For all things Notable New England, our website is your hub. Head over to notablene.podbean.com to catch up on past episodes and stay connected. While you're there, you'll find links to support the show, whether that's by becoming a sustaining member on Patreon. Memberships start at just $2 a month and come with some cool perks, or making a one-time gift through buymeacoffee.com. Every bit helps me keep bringing you the voices and history that make New England so special. You can also find our social media links so you can follow Notable New England on social media. And if you have questions, ideas, or stories to share, the email address is listed so you can reach out. Again, the website is notablene.podbean.com. That's notablene.podbean.com. It's your one-stop shop for everything Notable New England. Hello, lovely listeners. If you are enjoying Notable New England, I'd love your help getting the word out. One of the best ways that you can support the show is very simple and costs you nothing. Tell a friend. Share your favorite episode with somebody who loves a good New England story. And while you're at it, take a second to rate us 5 stars and leave a quick review on your favorite podcast app. Those ratings and reviews really do make a difference. They help new listeners discover the show and show the podcast platforms that you value what I'm doing. So whether it's word of mouth recommendations or a rating, your support helps keep Notable New England growing. Thanks for listening and for helping me share these stories far and wide. I thought it would be fun to share some trivia and little-known tidbits about New England, the kind of stuff that makes you say, I never knew that. Maybe you'll learn something new about the place we call home and come away with a bit more knowledge. So let's start off with the state of Maine. First off, did you realize that Maine is the only state in the United States that is one syllable? It is also the only state that borders just one other state, and that would be New Hampshire. The world's first and largest electric railway museum in the world is in Kennebunkport, Maine. The Seashore Trolley Museum features over 350 vehicles that span decades of public transportation history. If you want to visit, it is located at 195 Log Cabin Road in Kennebunkport, Maine. If you head way up north in Maine, you can visit Westquody Head Lighthouse in Lubec, Maine. And it is the only lighthouse in the United States with a candy-striped tower. The lighthouse was built in 1808 and is 49 feet tall with a 16-foot diameter base. And interestingly, Westquody Head Lighthouse is the easternmost point in the United States, and it's where the first rays of sunshine hit our country each morning. Lubec, where the Westquody Head Lighthouse is located, is also the U.S.'s closest continental location to Africa. Strong, Maine, located west of the Kennebec River in Franklin County, used to be known as the toothpick capital of the world. At one point, 95% of all wooden toothpicks in the country were made in Strong, Maine, and in its heyday, over 75 billion toothpicks were being made in Strong per year. Come the 1980s and 1990s, though, toothpick manufacturing in the United States and particularly Strong, Maine was dwindling as they could be made more cheaply in China and Southeast Asia. And the last toothpick factory run by the Forster Manufacturing Company in Strong, Maine closed in 2003. Maine is the largest producer of lobster in the United States. In fact, they account for over 90% of the country's lobster harvest. So it makes sense that Maine, specifically Rockland, Maine, is known as the lobster capital of the world. Let's move on to New Hampshire next. Did you know that New Hampshire has the shortest coastline of any state in the United States? Of course, excluding states that don't have a coastline. We're talking about states that do have a coastline. New Hampshire's is roughly just 18 miles in length. Astronaut Alan Shepard, who was the first American to travel to space, was born in New Hampshire. He was, in fact, born in Derry, New Hampshire in 1923, and he attended school there and graduated from Pinkerton Academy in 1940, and then went on to the U.S. Naval Academy, where he earned his Bachelor of Science degree. Sadly, Shepard passed away in 1998. The Peterborough, New Hampshire Public Library became the first tax-supported public library in the United States in 1833. On April 9th, 1833, a proposal was put forth at the town meeting to create the library, which would be owned and funded by the people through taxation and open to all. In 1837, a catalog listing all of the books in the public library, sorted by topic, was created, and then each family in the town got a copy of it. The books were stored at first in the general store, and then in the post office, and finally in the Miller Pharmacy, located in the ground level of the former town hall. By 1890, the library had over 6,000 books in circulation. Today, the Peterborough Town Library is located in a different place at 2 Concord Street. New Hampshire was the first of 13 colonies to establish its own constitution to formally replace British rule on January 5th, 1776, 6 months prior to the Declaration of Independence being established. New Hampshire's first constitution consisted of just 2.5 pages. A chief executive officer was referenced, but that office, titled as president, was merely the leader of a council chosen by the House of Representatives. This council and the president were not only chosen by the House of Representatives, but together the House and the council formed the legislature. All other government officials were to be appointed directly or indirectly by the legislature, except for certain county officials. Otherwise, Only the members of the House of Representatives were directly elected by the people. There were no co-equal branches of government. There was no balance of power. The legislature was the supreme branch of government. The state motto of "Live Free or Die" reflects the state's tradition of desiring independence and limited government. It was adopted in 1945, and the phrase was credited to General John Stark, an American Revolutionary War soldier who, after being invited to a reunion to remember the Battle of Bennington, but not being able to attend due to illness, he sent a letter in reply, and the postscript he wanted to be read as a toast stated, quote, "Live free or die. Death is not the greatest of evils." Wolfeboro, New Hampshire is known as America's oldest summer resort town. This dates back to 1759 when the town was named to honor General James Wolfe and his victory against the French army in Quebec. Before the town was incorporated in 1770, New Hampshire's final British governor, John Wentworth, built New England's first summer country estate called Kingswood, which is now known as the Wentworth House, which burned down in 1820. By the mid-1800s, Wolfeboro had established itself as a seasonal haven. Wealthy families from Boston, New York, and beyond built summer homes, and boarding houses and hotels started to open up. The completion of railroad connections to the lakes region made it easier than ever for vacationers to reach Wolfeboro, which helped cement its role as a summer resort. Agawam, Massachusetts boasts the first zip code established in the continental United States in 1963. Its zip code is 01001. Zip codes were created as a part of a plan to improve the speed of mail delivery through the use of machine-readable zip codes to sort mail at the national level in a more efficient manner. The very first zip code was actually for Adjuntas, Puerto Rico, which is, of course, a territory of the United States. But Agawam was the first zip code established in the continental United States. Boston Light on Little Brewster Island in outer Boston Harbor was the first lighthouse built in the United States in 1716. The original tower was destroyed by the British in 1776 and was reconstructed in 1783. In 1790, ownership of the Boston Light was transferred to the federal government. After 215 years, Boston Light was the last lighthouse in the country to be automated in 1998, though Boston Light remained staffed due to an authorization by Congress in 1989. In 2003, Dr. Sally Snowman became the first civilian keeper and the first female keeper of Boston Light. After 20 years, Snowman retired in 2023, and she served as the last official lighthouse keeper in the United States. Revere Beach is America's first public ocean beach. Yes, on October 1st, 1896, the Metropolitan Park Commission became the owner of Revere Beach and created the first public ocean beach in the country. Revere Beach is located about 5 miles north of Boston, and the beach extends almost 3 miles long, and it is along a crescent-shaped coastline. One of the most popular events the beach hosts is, of course, the annual International Sand Sculpting Festival, which showcases the work of world-renowned sand sculptors, and it attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors each year. The Boston Marathon is the world's oldest annual marathon. The first one was run on April 19th, 1897, 1 year after the first modern Olympics debuted in 1896. The Boston Marathon was originally called the American Marathon and was the final event of the BAA Games. The first running of the Boston Marathon started at the site of Metcalfe's Mill in Ashland, Massachusetts, and finished at the Irvington Street Oval near Copley Square. John J. McDermott of New York emerged from a 15-member starting field to win the inaugural Boston Marathon. 4 U.S. presidents were born in Massachusetts, and those presidents were John Adams, John Quincy Adams, John F. Kennedy, and George Herbert Walker Bush. The USS Constitution, also known as Old Ironsides, is our nation's oldest commissioned vessel in the U.S. Navy, and it is permanently berthed at Charlestown Navy Yard. It was first launched in 1797. Naval officers and crew still serve aboard the ship today, and visitors can hear the ship's cannon fire daily at 8 a.m. and at sunset. The USS Constitution is operated by the United States Navy, a partner to the National Parks of Boston. The Naval History and Heritage Command, Detachment Boston, in Building 24 at the Charlestown Navy Yard, is responsible for the maintenance, repair, and restoration of the USS Constitution. Bombay-born and British-educated author Rudyard Kipling wrote The Jungle Book when he lived in Dummerston, Vermont, and he had a property called Nalaka, Hindi for priceless jewel. He had built the house in 1893 near his wife's family. He also is credited with inventing snow golf. According to the U.S. Golf Association and historical accounts, Kipling invented the game at his home at Nalaka following his introduction to golf by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who you may know is the author of Sherlock Holmes. As for Nalaka, Landmark Trust USA restored it and maintains it as a vacation rental. Vermont is known for its maple syrup, and they are the leader of maple syrup production in the United States, producing 3.1 million gallons per year. And a little fun fact, did you know that it takes 40 gallons of maple sap to make just 1 gallon of maple syrup? When you drive through Vermont, there's something you won't see, and that would be billboards. In 1968, legislators enacted a statewide ban on billboards to preserve the state's natural beauty. To this day, there are no billboards in Vermont, so you can enjoy the beautiful scenery without these giant monstrosities blocking your view. Did you know that Vermont was the birthplace of the only U.S. president who was born on the 4th of July? Calvin Coolidge, the 30th president of the United States, was born on July 4th, 1872. He would become the President of the United States in 1923, and he was sworn in at his father's residence in Plymouth, Vermont, under the light of a kerosene lamp, with his father administering the oath with the family's Bible on August 3rd, 1923, after the death of Warren G. Harding of an apparent stroke. He was then elected to a full term in 1924 and served as president until 1929. Lake Champlain in Vermont is said to be the place that Champ, a legendary lake monster akin to the Loch Ness Monster, lives. Champ is described as having a serpent-like body, a long neck, and humps. Historians think that Champ is likely a larger-than-usual garfish which is a class of fish that includes sturgeon and that live in Lake Champlain. In Vermont, a baseball team is known as the Lake Monsters, and they have a mascot named Champ. A Champ statue sits by the water in Port Henry, New York, and images of the monster looking cheerful, definitely not scary, appear throughout the area at local businesses, on T-shirts, in children's books, and more. A historical marker even sits on the shore of Clinton County in honor of Champ. During the American Revolution, Vermont was actually an independent country known as the Republic of Vermont from 1777 to 1791. Due to land claims from Quebec, New Hampshire, and New York, Vermont took the bold step and declared its independence in 1777. The Republic established a constitution, minted its own currency, and operated a postal system. In 1791, Vermont officially joined the United States as the 14th state. Did you know that Connecticut was the first state in the country to enact a speed limit law for automobiles? On May 12, 1901, they passed a law where motor vehicles had to limit their speed to 12 miles per hour in cities and 15 miles per hour on country roads. The world's first nuclear submarine, the USS Nautilus, was built in Groton, Connecticut between 1952 and 1954. It was able to remain submerged almost indefinitely because it used nuclear fuel and no air. The submarine was decommissioned on March 3, 1980, after a career spanning 25 years and over 500,000 miles steamed. The Frisbee was invented in Bridgeport, Connecticut, when students at nearby universities like Yale would buy pies from the Frisbee Pie Company in Bridgeport and then use the empty pie tins to toss around, and they would yell Frisbee to alert the catcher to the disc. The term Frisbee stuck, and the term was adopted by other universities as the game spread for their own particular versions of the flying disc tossing. The Wadsworth Atheneum Museum of Art in Hartford, Connecticut, is the oldest continuing running public art museum in the country. It was founded in 1842 by Daniel Wadsworth, one of the first major American art patrons, with a vision for infusing art into the American experience. Today, the Wadsworth Atheneum Museum of Art is home to a collection of nearly 50,000 works of art spanning 5,000 years and encompassing European art from antiquity to contemporary, as well as American art from the 1600s through today. The Mystic Seaport Museum in Mystic, Connecticut is the largest maritime museum in the United States. The museum covers 19 acres and includes a recreated 19th century coastal village, historic ships, and more than 500 historical artifacts and exhibits spanning over 2 centuries of maritime history. There are lots of interactive exhibits, including demonstrations on traditional boat building techniques, sailing, and artisans and craftsmen showing their skills needed as part of a maritime community in the 1800s. A highlight is that you can see the Charles W. Morgan, which is the last wooden whaling ship still in existence. The Hartford Courant is the oldest U.S. newspaper in continuous publication in the United States. On October 29, 1764, New Haven printer Thomas Green began publishing the Hartford Courant, then known as the Connecticut Courant, out of the Heart and Crown Tavern in Hartford, Connecticut. Its first issue consisted of just 4 pages printed on 8.5 by 14.5 paper. It was a weekly paper, and then in 1837, it became a daily paper. In 1913, with its daily edition in high demand, the paper published its first ever Sunday edition. Today it remains as Connecticut's largest daily newspaper. Rhode Island, as I'm sure you know, is the smallest state in size in our nation. It covers an area of 1,214 square miles. Its distances north to south are 48 miles and east to west 37 miles. 547.09 Rhode Islands could fit inside the biggest state, which is Alaska. Rhode Island is called the Ocean State, and it was coined that to attract tourism to Rhode Island and started to appear on non-commercial license plates in the state back in 1972. The Rhode Island Tourism Division promotes over 400 miles of coastline. This is not all ocean frontage, but includes Narragansett Bay, extending inland from the Atlantic Ocean north to the center of the state. All Rhode Islanders live within a 30-minute drive to the Atlantic Ocean or Narragansett Bay. The Block Island Wind Farm is the first commercial offshore wind farm in the United States and began commercial operation in December of 2016. It's located 3.8 miles from Block Island, Rhode Island in the Atlantic Ocean. It was developed by Deepwater Wind, and the wind farm generates an estimated 18,396,000 kilowatt hertz of wind power per year, providing essentially 100% of energy needs for all the households on Block Island and an estimated 12,500 households on the Rhode Island mainland. This eliminates the need for up to 456,900 gallons of diesel fuel per year for generators on Block Island, as well as the cost of transporting fuel to the island. The Bristol, Rhode Island 4th of July Parade is the oldest continuously running 4th of July parade in the United States. It was founded in 1785 by Reverend Henry White of the First Congregational Church, who is also a veteran of the Revolutionary War. The parade today is organized by the Bristol 4th of July Committee and keeps the spirit of America's independence alive and well, welcoming people from around the world to participate and enjoy this local tradition. Newport's Touro Synagogue is the oldest surviving synagogue building in the United States. It was built in 1763 and still serves as an active congregation and receives over 30,000 visitors each year. It is designated as a National Historic Site run by the National Park Service. The U.S. Open tennis tournament has its roots in Newport, Rhode Island. The first event was held in August 1881 at the Newport Casino, which is now home to the International Tennis Hall of Fame. That year, only clubs that were members of the United States National Lawn Tennis Association were permitted to enter. Richard Sears won the men's singles at the tournament, which was the first of his 7 consecutive singles titles. The tournament continued to be held in Newport until 1914. I hope you learned some interesting tidbits about each New England state that maybe you did not know or realize before. I'm a sucker for New England trivia, so it was a lot of fun to research this episode and learn some new things myself. As a reminder, for my episode research sources and music credits, make sure to check the show notes. There are helpful links to things I mentioned on the podcast, so you can just click and be taken to wherever you need to go. Thank you for tuning into this edition of Notable New England. I'll be back on Sunday, October 26th with a new episode, so I hope you'll join me. Take care, everyone, and be good to each other and yourselves. I'll catch you next time.